Hello and welcome to Friday Double Bill, the show where we analyze and evaluate the latest films from Bollywood and Hollywood to help you make a more informed choice at the movies. I'm Fahad Samar and this is Mayank Shekhar.
Well, as you know, since the IPL ended, basically we're getting some smasher big budget pictures in the theatres, and therefore the first one that we're starting with is the big Bollywood release, that is Dil Dhadakne, directed by Zoya Akhtar, is a film about an upper class dysfunctional family. The story, however, plays out in such a way that we could be dealing with any other rich, metropolitan Indian family that hides several skeletons in the cupboard but smiles in public through it all. The picture is set in a luxury cruise liner. The Mehra family has invited a host of friends to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary. Anil Kapoor plays the family patriarch, Shefali Chaya plays his wife, Ranveer Singh and Priyanka Chopra play their children. Priyanka's character is married to Rahul Bose. Ranveer falls for a lower class girl on board, that's Anushka Sharma. But much beyond these main parts, this ensemble cast film is a comedy of errors and manners, as more than a dozen young and old people comprising friends and family get together for a long vacation.
Well, I don't know about long vacation. It's meant to be a 10-day cruise, but at 2 hours and 50 minutes, it does seem like a very long vacation at the movies. Having said that, I mean, Zoya Akhtar has, in a very short period of time, established herself, perhaps in my opinion, as the foremost female director and certainly one of the top directors, regardless of gender, working in the Hindi film industry at the moment. Her first film, Luck by Chance, was actually, about the Hindi film industry. It was a loving send-up and spoof of Bollywood. Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara was all about seizing the day, not allowing yourself to wallow in mediocrity, and the story of three great boys who found themselves, each one their own journey and the road trip through Spain, so it was a bit of Spanish tourism. Here, of course, we have Turkish tourism. We've got the cruise liner, which is one of the USPs of this film. Phenomenal ensemble cast that you mentioned. Zoya's longtime collaborator Carlos Catalan, as far as the cinematography, does an excellent job, whether he's shooting in the tiny cabins in the ship, or whether it's epic helicam shots. It's all great. Arjun Basin, who's working with the absolute top stars in Hollywood today, has done the costumes, so he has, it's impeccable as far as the costuming and look of the film. Zoya's films are always, the production design is great. I was, however, left a little cold by the story itself. I think this is kind of old wine in a new bottle at one level, because these themes of rich boy, poor girl, unhappy marriages, facade, this Punjabi family, boisterous. I kind of had seen this before, but the way it's all brought together is very delightful. And I think that is the strength of the film. But is it a great film? I didn't think so. What did you think?
Well, is it a great film or not? Of course, we have a whole discussion to have on that issue. But one thing is very, very clear. It's a horrendously long film. It's very languidly paced.
Yes.
But what I loved about it is that it's intensely real.
Yes.
And that's probably why it is absolutely likable. Beyond that, there is a second thing why I thought this movie is likable, is of course because of the cast. We're looking at some of the finest actors being given some very great situations to work on, starting with Anil Kapoor. We were having this discussion on WhatsApp with a bunch of entertainment journalists, and they're wondering if this is the first time that Anil Kapoor has actually played a father. For somebody who's as old as that, he's actually never played a father before in a film. I mean, there were references to Lamhe, but he wasn't a father there.
Right.
And there was Mr. India, but he wasn't really a father there. But he is that typical Punjabi man, who's hardened by partition, who's living this particular life because he's quote unquote self-made, and therefore he's rich now, but at the same time he needs his network of other Punjabis, and he also needs to know what everybody else thinks about him. So I thought that was pretty well done. The other one, of course, is Ranveer Singh. Now here we're looking at an actor who is playing a person who, having grown up in Delhi, I've known a lot of these kids who are extremely rich, extremely adorably dim-witted, and there's something very likable about them despite them being the super brat. I think he gets that super brat pat on, but I think the best performance in this film, and I'd be very surprised if she's completely overlooked given that there's so many other characters in the picture, actor would be Shefali Chai. I think she comes in for about just a few scenes. She's doing roughly the same thing, but man, she really stole my heart.
Yes, Shefali Chaya, now known as Shefali Shah, of course, and Priyanka Chopra, I think, did a mercurial job in this film. You know, it was real, it was solid. I mean, it came from the heart. Farhan Akhtar, dependable as always.
More like a guest
you know,
appearance, though,
guest
I felt,
appearance,
yeah.
absolutely. This great casting by Nandini Shrikant. I think what I'm trying to say is that Zoya has managed to put together a phenomenal crew as far as all the departments are concerned, and they really rise to the occasion and do a great job. Again, I come back to the script. I'm a little worried that why the editing, you know, was allowed to carry on for 2 hours 50 minutes as it did, and unfortunately, I found that the story left me a little cold.
Well, I think the OMG moments or the oh my god moments that we usually look at for every film in this particular program is usually about one particular moment that just shook us in some form or the other. I think this film, given that there are so many things that we're dealing with at the same time, there isn't that one moment, except for that one time that we realized pretty early on in the picture that the narrator of this film is actually a dog called Pluto. And that's not what's the OMG for me, frankly speaking, Fahad. What was OMG were the lines that the dog has. I think he has the best lines. And at some point, I mean, my favorite line from that, from the dog being the narrator, was when he's referring to Mr. Mehra as a self-made man. And if he's such a self-made man, then maybe he should have made himself a little better. And this vintage Javed Akhtar kind of wit and humor. I only realized towards the end that Pluto's dialogue has been credited to Javed Akhtar. The other thing, and on a more serious note, Fahad, I think I felt that given that we're dealing with a dysfunctional family, it takes certain very harsh truths about marriages in general. The sense I got, of course, it's not overtly mentioned in the film, is that there's a problem with marriage as an institution, but I think all marriages might be dysfunctional in some form if it doesn't come with love, and I think that point was pretty well put across.
I think so, completely. As far as my OMG moment in this thing is concerned, is really again with old Pluto. This is voiced by Amir Khan, which itself is, so it's been written by Javed Akhtar, it's voiced by Amir Khan. Unfortunately, I thought this is something that if it had been dispensed with, the film would not have suffered in any way, and I don't think it's greatly enhanced either. Yes, it's cute, but the device sort of wears thin. It's also unevenly paced and things. So it's a clever idea, but I think I was left with the idea that this was just clever, and that's all it really was as far as I'm concerned.
Well, this is a film almost entirely set on water, or at least in a cruise liner. The last time I remember a similar script that I'd seen on film was in 2007, a picture called Honeymoon Travels Private Limited, which was written by Zoya Akhtar and Reema Kagdi. But of course, those people didn't know each other, but it was a much tighter film in that sense. This is far looser. The other thing is that you have so many characters and so many subplots you're dealing with. At some point you start feeling claustrophobic in some form or the other. More importantly, given that these are the characters that keep coming in and going out, I felt even the beats were very, very television-like. This is a picture that I'll certainly watch on television, perhaps watch it twice on television. You should at least watch it once on theatre, I think. Theatre pe dekho.
Mayank, there's something called cabin fever. When you're sitting in a cruise ship for many, many, many weeks, you acquire this malaise where you're just yearning for land and probably to get out of the confines. I felt at 2 hours 50 minutes, I wanted to get out of that, pretty quickly. Having said all of that, this is actually a very good film, if not a great film. Certainly dekho, theatre mein dekho, aur chahe to isi hafte dekho.
Well, that's Friday Double Bill, guys. Tell us what you think of the movies. Tell us what you think of the show. And yes, subscribe to our channel.